here this edition of the Men Steel podcast. Like I said, right now, if you want, feel free to chime in and share your thoughts. Number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, it's 312-209-2232. Tonight, I will just be streaming live on Facebook Live and YouTube. So you can just definitely feel free to tune in, take a moment. Feel free leave your comments, concerns. Feel free to press any like buttons coming this way. And let's begin. Yeah, like I said, I'll start off on Thursday night at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock Eastern time when the draft came in. The Steelers were entering in at number 20th overall when this thing began. And I gotta admit, when I saw this, and a lot of people's hearts and collective breaths just paused all Steeler Nation right here. Last time they were able to select and move up and make a trade with someone to move up quite a few spots was back in 2003 with Troy Polamalu, who they eventually selected the grad from the University of USC. And we all know what happened at the mayor of that time. The rest was history, as they say. Helped contribute immensely to 2 Super Bowls. And, of course, we'll never forget that game-winning ceiling interception against the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game that was pretty much over 10 years ago. And now let's take a look at it. Let's look at these picks right now, like I said. And I had questioned a lot of people who were looking at this pick of a guy like Devin Bush, who is now going to be an official member of the Black and Gold. Some people were a little concerned because, for sake, I would say, and don't get me wrong, last year it was clearly obvious that it was missed Ryan Shazier's replacement when we looked at last year's history. They missed out on guys like, I remember like Rashad Evans. You also had Tremaine Edmonds, I believe, who went with the Bills, and some other guys. And they had to settle for the very first pick, Terrell Edmonds, who was actually a safety. And I think it really turned out pretty well this year when you looked at it. I mean, Kevin Colbert, you remember his comments as he was saying, too, when he looks at rookies now, and a lot of coaches, too, who are also viewing this, they usually like to just start them off slowly. And one of the main things where you want to start off to build off a young rookie is off special teams. And I can definitely see that. And that's the thing that made Terrell Evans, who was just recently selected, and made him the little exception to the rule. He was able to catch on with some fire later on in the fall, as you saw what he was able to do in that year. And yeah, it was definitely one of those things where he was definitely a nice piece to add to the safety on that roster when you look at it. And I really felt like that at that point, yeah, they definitely got beat out by a bunch of teams on there they were trying to get. And I was just mentioning last year's draft. We take a look back a moment in time. So basically, the guys that were on their list from a year ago, when they were trying to get Ryan Shazier's replacement, you had guys listed on there. Tremaine Edmonds, he got snagged up by the Buffalo Bills that I just mentioned a few moments earlier. Also, too, that was on here, aside from him, you had Leighton Vander Esch, who got picked up. He was an outside linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. And then, of course, Rashad Evans snatched up from the Tennessee Titans. And it really leave the Steelers with much wiggle room from that point on. And like I said, they settled with Tremaine Edmonds. Terrell Edmonds, excuse me. And you saw what they did. They definitely, arguably, they had a slow start. But again, I really thought they were going to go with corner in that draft. I mean, to start things off for the opening selection, when I took a look at things, and a lot of the name that was definitely being consistently thrown out there for the Steelers. Now he's been picked up by the Browns instead on day number 3 of the draft, and that happened to be Greedy Williams, who, by the way, he's definitely not our pick, but he is definitely currently right now. He is a member of the Cleveland Browns. He is a member of the Dog Pound, and went on making the prediction for the Dog Pound and the Brown fans that this year is going to be their year of the Super Bowl. And I don't know about you. I mean, a lot of people argue, I mean, with his size and stuff and where he got selected, that I'm talking about right now, Devin Bush, who's out of Michigan, and being listed at 5'11", is he like a little bit undersized? Is that going to be in the way? I mean, you look at the good things about a guy like Devin Bush, and when I was watching Mike Pursuta back on Steelers Live when the selection was made, I mean, hours after it happened, and when you looked at it, he's definitely one of the guys who could be viewed as a leader on this team, no doubt about it. But like I said, too, a lot of people who were trying to compare him to, like, how you feel about being Ryan Shazier's, next heir apparent, and basically just want to say he just wants to be himself, and which it was great props. And listen, I mean, how often do the Steelers really have these opportunities right here? Like I said, you look at like what they did with Troy Polamalu back in 2003. Of course, that was a year before they got Ben Roethlisberger, who was drafted a year later. But then you look at the other cornerstone pieces that they got, like, say, in the first round. I'll give you a list right now who I felt were big-time contributors, and I want to definitely hear your thoughts. Feel free to share your comments. You could definitely make an argument like a guy back in 2007. And I'm talking about, not just under Kevin Colbert, but Mike Tomlin, you could say right now, who later succeeded Bill Cowher when they parted ways. But look at Lawrence Timmons back in 2007. Lawrence Timmons was on that team for pretty much his first 10 seasons before he went on to go with the Miami Dolphins. And you looked at that, and he was definitely who I felt was like a good run stopper who could definitely fit on that defense. Definitely made some huge contributions, in my opinion, for that team, and definitely helping them bring home Lombardi number 6 that year. So, I mean, then you also, like, fast forward a few years later, like, who else do they have, like, significantly on defense that you could actually throw in the hat in that mix? You could probably argue also, too, Cam Hayward. Cam Hayward, whose clock is actually ticking down right now. He is going on 2 more seasons left under his contract. And this is all stemming back from the extension he signed back 4 years ago in July of 2015 with the Steelers. And that pretty much kept him around for like about another 5 more years when you looked at it. And then, of course, I mean, the other guys too. I mean, Ryan Shazier, but not so much right now. It's pretty much his career, unfortunately, hate to say it, is on life support. Don't expect him to come back. But maybe another guy you could argue too, depending on how well he continues to pick up, is probably TJ Watt. Those are some other guys right there. So again, with the Steelers, and I loved it. I gotta admit, that was definitely like everyone was just all on pause that night, that Thursday evening, when the announcement was made that they traded up. And in case anyone's missed it or is just finding out, I'm sure everyone's heard by now, but just to recap what the Steelers did to move up 10 spots with the Denver Broncos, they surrendered this year's second-round pick and next year's third round pick. And I know a lot of people were upset. I know one group, they're also on YouTube. You can also watch them, Steel Twins. They were a little frustrated with it. But I gotta say, that wasn't really all that bad. And I only say that because when you look at the compensation got in return for like Antonio Brown. Yeah, you got like a third and a fifth round from Antonio Brown. When you looked at it, I mean, they got the first third round pick from the Oakland Raiders, which they turned into a receiver, Deontay Johnson. And then, of course, the other third round pick that they already had rightfully on their own that the Pittsburgh Steelers got. When you looked at this draft, they got Justin Lane, defensive back out of Michigan State, and Deontay Johnson, he was a wide receiver out of Toledo. Both very good combine grades. Both have the potential to become a starter in this league when you look at things. And no doubt about it. And I just feel at this point in time, when you have that additional third round pick, it ultimately cost Kevin Colbert and the Steelers organization probably a shot at a good lockdown core or edge rusher like a Greedy Williams. When you really looked at it, arguably so, but sometimes you bite the bullet for those things. And I know much has been made with the defense. Now you're going to be having Terrell Austin in his first year with the Steelers. And you look at what he's going to try and do to like implement things as far as from stuff on the defense. Remember, he was also once upon a time with the Bengals, and that was back last year. And really look at the stuff he's did overall as a defense coordinator. Yeah, he's had some bad Lions teams. He was with the Detroit Lions for bulk of his career from 2015 to 2017. He really only had one good defensive year, if you ask me. And he's supposed to be the senior consultant, I mean, pretty much to operating things right there. And I just got a little bit of concerns right there in that aspect. But like, what's he gonna do differently to like change? Because I gotta tell you, I think this as a Steeler fan and watching this team for a amount of years that they've been on. Let me just say, you got to pick up the pace and the momentum a little bit more. Where at some point where you need to start managing to get off the field quicker. Bob Labarola was mentioning it that this team has to be a little bit more aggressive in creating turnovers. If you're not going to create enough turnovers, you're not going to win too many ball games or be successful long term. And I definitely do feel like that's one of the things I will side with him on. Because, yeah, this team has been more like 4-and-out or 3-and-out defense on fourth downs, forcing teams to punt. Just play for the 4 downs, whatever. And then you get after the quarterback. They slightly improved on the missed tackling, I want to say, like about a year ago when they looked at it. And I thought they did well in that area. But, yeah, I definitely feel it's still room for improvement. Don't get me wrong. And when you really think about it, I definitely feel that what they need to do is they do want to get back to a point of emphasis where they can at least pitch one good shutout during the season. Not to shut up, but get more pick sixes. We finally saw that a little bit last year when you saw a couple of games. I mean, one of them, of course, was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think the other one was against the Carolina Panthers on Thursday night. Both short distance returns on there when you really think about that. And that's why it goes back to a point of emphasis where they don't play sideline to sideline coverage. And I think that could be a frustrating theme that just seems to get in the way. So again, if you want to feel free and call in on the show here as streaming live right here on this special edition, the conclusion of the 84th annual NFL Draft. Number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richie. Also, let's take a look at some of the other draft picks that they picked up here, aside from Deontay Johnson, Justin Lane. When you looked at it, you began this morning, Saturday, with the number 122nd pick. They selected running back out of Kentucky, Benny Snell. And this guy seems like he's coming with some moxie already. He was already talking about, to a reporter, he was talking about himself in the third person, trying to build himself up, marketing yourself. Like to see you definitely back it up on the field. You got a nice good mix of backs right there when you think about guys like James Conner, Jalen Samuels on that team. And when you really look at it, and I thought running backs coach too, Eddie Faulkner, who was in the press conference, asked about his thoughts about Benny Snell. One of the notable things that he said about Benny was that he loves the passion for this game, plays physical and hard, that represents the Steelers brand as a football player. Great traits right there. And he also has like the physicality too. I mean, just Steeler football. Now that they have been moved on from a guy like Le'Veon Bell, who's actually going to now be with the Jets, that we'll be seeing later on this year. When you really think about things, and I think that's one key thing that I just had to pause and like note right there. Steeler football, and I think that's what a lot of fans have been screaming about. Love the superstar talent that they had on there previously, but let's face facts. Let's be honest. What did it really get them in the end? Did it really deliver any championships? No. But I mean, don't get me wrong, it still kept them in contention. But I think there's a difference when you want to be in contention and put yourself over that next hurdle and get to the top, to the mountaintop. And that's just, I just felt like, as watching this team for so many years, it just really felt like, hey, it's like, I felt like it's overwhelming at times just watching them. It didn't really feel like a team that was just wowing enough. There was just times I really felt like watching like the talent that Ben Roethlisberger had surrounded with him, with an Antonio Brown, a Le'Veon Bell. It almost felt like a laughing stock at times. I'm not going to lie to you, because they definitely worked their butts off too to try and fix the defense along the way, which they have been trying to improve and doing a much better job in recent memory. But now you're at this position, you definitely got to think this is definitely a refresh. It's a little more headed in the right direction, and we'll see what happens from here. So anyway, let's also take a look at the next other picks they also had in here. You also had, which I thought was a good, smart pickup too for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You also have Zach Gentry, who was selected today. He comes from the University of Michigan, which, by the way, let's just pause and think about this for a moment. Devin Bush, number 1 overall pick, and I'm sure everybody's seen the video on Twitter. Feel free to share your comments real quick, and just want to say thank you for those of you tuning in right now. I'm Charles Prodigy Richie. We are recapping the Pittsburgh Steelers NFL draft this year for the 2019 campaign. It has been the 84th annual edition of the NFL draft in the history, as we enter the 100th season as well of the NFL. And Zach Gentry, too. You also heard from tight ends coach James Daniel, who no doubt he went to Michigan as a quarterback and converted to a tight end, which, by the way, ironically, Heath Miller, who's been the last legitimate tight end for the Steelers team, who we have definitely been without. They have been without, for over 3 years now, and making this year number 4 life playing without him. He went to Virginia, also started off as a quarterback and converted to a tight end in his freshman year. Think about that for a second. Heath Miller, same level Heath Miller, also a quarterback. It's definitely amazing when you have like a sport of football how guys can make those conversions and those transformations into the next level step of your career. And I think those are just some noble traits right there. One that definitely tells me not of course the obvious that you are expendable, but you are definitely could be like utilized a lot more in different facets of this game when we really see it. And I think that's going to definitely be a good one too. And here's one noble thing too. I also looked at. He is 6'8". He is bigger not only than Heath Miller, who was 6'5", Ladarius Green, and Jesse James, who I believe was about 6'7" when he last played with the Steelers. He is now with the Detroit Lions. And I think right now, too, going back to, like, let's take a look at Benny Snell. Oh, let me throw this one little tidbit before we go any further. And I thought this was a nice, noble one. I want to credit Ed Boucher right now, who actually covers the Steelers. He's definitely one of the local Steelers reporters for The Athletic, senior writer, by the way. He can follow on Twitter at Ed Boucher. That's capital E, capital B. And one noble thing that he mentioned about Benny Snell, he was also the grandson, actually, as a matter of fact, of very Hall of Famer Matt Snell, I believe, who was actually one of the guys who won Super Bowl III with Joe Namath and the Jets. When you looked at it, and he was definitely right there. Yeah, the grandson of Matt Snell, the Super Bowl III champion, along with Joe Namath when they made that famous upset of the Baltimore Colts 50 years ago, as a matter of fact. But like I said, I heard one person too was also made concern too that when they started off day number 3, and you look at the draft and what they went after, and this was like the first pick outside of the top 100. So I think I definitely feel like I agree that was definitely a pick maybe too early. I will probably like to still see them gone like edge rusher. Definitely had plenty of opportunities. And this is where I feel like I was like a little concerned too. I wonder how many people were actually feeling like were the Steelers not enough being aggressive to trade up more. They were able to trade up for a guy like Devin Bush. Did they take their foot off the gas as this draft went on? I definitely feel, like I said, Cam Hayward, like I said, you got 2 more seasons. You have to be very mindful that I definitely like to see someone start training under and learning from a guy like Cam. I got Dan Hedrick right here, if I'm saying that correctly. He was saying that did right. Yeah, I mean, they definitely did right. And of course, when you have this much draft capital built up, and really, really, when you look at it, for this year's draft, they only gave up 1 round, which was incredible, if you ask me. I mean, and that's the thing. A lot of things could change from now. If they got to like trade someone or whatever, I'm not sure who they would right now at this point in time. I know Bud Dupree right now, I mean, he's definitely one of the guys too. I mean, he's still a good outside linebacker, but he definitely tends to struggle picking up. It's just more so of a fact where are you patient with so much nowadays continuously, or it's to be a slow start, but he'll continue to finish strong for this team. And that's one thing that you like a guy like about Mike Tomlin, who's probably some people would still be frustrated with, I don't know if they're happy with, or want to say like this guy should not be coaching the Steelers or whatever. Mark my words, he does have the point of emphasis where he wants these guys to finish strong down the stretch. Bottom line, he's a grinder for this team and a very good one, I may add, for the Steelers ever since coming in here. As he enters, believe it or not, year number 13 as we look at things in the black and gold. City of Steel, Steel City. Also, let's take a look at some of the other picks coming up they had on here. And like I said, you had outside linebacker. They didn't get that, but they did get a nice little edge rusher and Sutton Smith right here. Defensive end out of the University of Northern Illinois. And Sutton Smith, he definitely had a very wowing performance. His draft grade was, his freshman grade was just a little bit lower from the combine. But overall, he definitely, like for his tenure over at Northern Illinois, he totaled up 139 tackles for 58 and a half tackles for loss, which included 30 sacks, by the way. And when you really look at things, he was definitely averaging about like 14 and a half sacks his last 2 years in his overall tenure at Northern Illinois. Well, when you think about things, and I think this is, like I said, you want to start preparing. You don't want to feel like with Cam Hayward, he's going to last forever. But you definitely you don't want to be blindfolded, and then when it's too late, he's already gone. He's out the door. You don't want to think like that. You definitely want to feel that you have to stay honest. You want to have a successor, kind of like how we did Shazier. I mean, we'll wait and see. Don't get me wrong, but I like the part that he's a good leader. And if he does catch on quick and he does enough to impress from special teams, which I should expect, I would imagine a guy like him, I don't know if he'll be one of the guys that'll be willing to put the headset in his helmet to be the guy directing traffic and leading the defense. Right now, you got that guy with John Bostic coming up. And let's wrap up and look at like some of the other picks on here that were most notable on here on this draft. You also had Isaiah Buggs, defensive tackle from Alabama. Then, of course, you also had right here Ulysses Gilbert, inside linebacker from Akron, Ohio, which, by the way, if I stand corrected, that was also his home he grew up in. So he went to his hometown college. And Jerry Osowski has some nice things to say about him, inside linebacker coach for the Steelers. He said that the good thing about him for Ulysses is that he can play in and out of the box, has good movement from sideline to sideline, and can hit people. And that is definitely one of the important traits. I don't care how much you want to soften up this game. And, of course, you want to definitely make it a safer environment. But at the end of the day, it is a physical game, 60 minutes of football. Those things still attract a franchise, a proud franchise like the Steelers will always take note of that and will always take a lot of pride in. I don't blame them. I think that was definitely a good scout out right there by the organization. And let's keep going. And Jerry Osowski, he's definitely been one of the coaches who impressed me the last few years. And then let's also finish up, too, with Derwin Gray out of the University of Maryland. This guy right here, he's like 6'4". He's a tackle, offensive tackle, and he played left tackle, from what I heard, in Maryland. So right now, I think you got that responsibility for the Steelers, who is actually doing that. I want to say for the Steelers that is doing for Alejandro Villanueva, which, by the way, he is going into year number 6, believe it or not. So I got to believe the Steelers are looking at the fact that, too, you extend the Ben Roethlisberger for 2 more years at $68 million. I mean, $34 million a year. And they did a good job keeping him on his feet the last few years, especially the last 4 or 5 years. Let's keep it that way. And I have no doubt about it. You definitely want to keep one of your golden gooses that you got left safe. Like him or not, controversial as he was the last few years, but at the end of the day, you cannot tell me that he definitely had a big time helping hand in like producing guys like a Santonio Holmes, a Mike Wallace, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Marcus Wheaton. Even those guys were short-lived, those last few names I just mentioned. And of course, last but not least, Juju Smith-Schuster, depending how long that works out. All right, guys. Well, hey, I'm going to definitely put a pause here right now for this edition of the Men of Steel podcast. I want to just say thank you very much for joining me right now. I know a lot of people have been exciting right now, but I'm not going to lie to you. The Greedy Williams one is the one. I don't know about anyone else over here. That's the one that got under my skin the most. That the Steelers did not pick up. He is now in the division of the Browns. Oh my gosh! And they definitely picked up on some guys in that draft when you really think about things and looked at it. And I was just incredibly disappointed that they did not pick him up. Greedy Williams just had just one of those loving, necking names for a defensive back, and more importantly, a defensive player on here. And like I said, but Kevin Colbert, he was definitely at the press conference along with Mike Tomlin, and they were definitely going to try and make the goal to start getting the process of signing beginning the process of signing 8 to 10 of those players they just drafted. And let's see what goes from here. I mean, like some guys who did not get drafted, we'll find out. But I'm not going to lie, just one last thing, one last noble thing I have to get off my chest here. I did not like seeing like the last pick of the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, Ryan Suckup. Don't get me started right now. Everyone knows what that name meant and where it hits home with a lot of fans right there. No offense. The nickname for that, they got right with him, Mr. Irrelevant. I will definitely say that. But the last pick of the draft, just want to mention right here, Caleb Wilson from UCLA. He was a tight end, frankly, which is what we got too as well. But I just wanted to say right now I want to hear your thoughts, your grades on this year's draft. What do you give it on a scale of A through F? I'm going to be personally honest with you. I'm willing to give this A minus. I'll have to say at the very minimal, and that's being generous. I really definitely feel like they addressed a lot of areas of concerns in this year. I mean, think about it. You patch things up. You got not one but 2 linebackers for this team that could really. You got some more depth now, alongside with a guy like John Bostic. So that's definitely been satisfied. I definitely feel like they could have done a lot better on the defensive corners right there, some cornerbacks. Definitely could have done a little bit more aggressive, especially with that draft capital they built up. I definitely feel that they could have traded up maybe 1-2 more spots or whatever they had to do. They had opportunities right there. But I mean, those 3 6-round picks were definitely like huge, if you ask me, because look at what got us still too. I mean, like they say in life, it's a game of give and take. I mean, look what you ended up getting. You got edge rusher and Sutton Smith, defense tackle and Isaiah Buggs, and last but not least, you got linebacker Ulysses Gilbert out of the University of Akron, Ohio. So that's going to finish for this edition of the Men of Steel podcast. Just want to say once again, thank you very much. This is just a special edition. As always, you can catch me Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure to hit me up on Twitter at PrideRichie. If you want, feel free to visit the Facebook page, Men of Steel Podcast. You can find it at Men of Steel Nation. That's at capital M, capital S, capital N, at Men of Steel Nation. Also check out my Facebook group page I was created too, Men of Steel Icon, at Men of Steel Icons. Check me out on Instagram, Men of Steel Nation. And last but not least, my YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast. All right, buddy. Well, as always, leave you. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.